Uh, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Uh, there's a reason that this is called Forever War, or today's talk. And this talk is a general talk because, first of all, this is moving toward the end of Shaban. And actually, Ramadan is going to kick in. Is it next week? The first or the third? Huh? The first, yeah, first. Okay. Well, that means we got a week to go, and so we definitely want to spend this time like we want to clean up downstairs. We can do some of it this evening, just take out the garbage and everything. But maybe Saturday we can do a little cleanup, getting everything arranged, and you know, getting ready for Ramadan. Because when it starts coming, it come faster. Well, we got all the time in the world, and we were saying, well, let's have 3 or 4 programs before Ramadan, and instead of having a spring offensive, which that would be now, we're gonna have a winter offensive. Shoot, by the time we got halfway into this stuff, you look up and it's already that, you know. Uh, I just want to make a little announcement for us, like the taxes that we had, we still have them. I'll pay them in a day or so because somebody came through with about the guy was writing the check, and I looked at it and said 10 grand. I said, man, that's exactly, we got 8,000 in taxes and 2,000 in bills. I said, you must be a mind reader, you know. But, and it, no, and it came through, and it has no business coming from where it came from. But who's gonna? There's no sense arguing with it, you know. So we just say Alhamdulillah. Now we're gonna. So actually, that's why I took a day off. I said, shoot, and we don't have to go out. So we get ready for Ramadan. We don't have to go and all during this part, and we don't have to, even in Ramadan, we'll be going out, but we don't have to, we'll be going out, passing out a flyer and a DVD. So we'll be preparing the people and our DVD will tell the people that we need your help. And as we said in the last one, we're not beggars, we're mujahids. You know what I mean? We're doing a specific job. We're doing a historical job. And in the next DVD, we'll tell them a little bit about what our plan was originally for here, that we're not broke at all. In fact, we're doing better financially or property-wise than maybe not the big shows, but everybody else, we got them beat. I mean, and we've been that for the last 20 years with no, with the government's mishandling and stealing. And so we've done, when history presents our case, it'll be the case of the era. There's no doubt about that, you know. That, first of all, there's never been a case like this in black history. That's first of all. First of all, there had been none of the historical blacks that made a real transition. Now, during this period, Imam Jamil's make the transition, and Actually, everything that we talked about came about and was happening even at that time. Kwame Ture, he didn't make the transition, and maybe on names and stuff, but not in in reality. Like him and Imam Jamil used to talk all the time. Although I knew him, and I knew him okay, but not when I was on the lecture circuit. He was on the lecture circuit too, so we knew each other from that, but not from back in the day. Like he could tell where I was coming from my lecture and who I was associated with. And then I would get all of his statistics and where he headed from Imam Jamil, because Imam Jamil took over right after him. In fact, it might have been him that gave Imam Jamil the name Rap Brown. This guy coming after me can really rap, you know. So anyway, so history. I know everybody understands here that we have always been in the history. When I say always, during this period of time and even before, we've been in a historical mode, because we're looking, and we have been looking all the time for our place in history. Like how and where do we fit in the best way during this historical process? Okay, forecasting, all that have been excellent, but now it's getting ridiculous. What I mean ridiculous is now, just like you got the phone, everybody got. I used to have to go to the library, and I would go down the library and I'd pull out a book and leave it, go down, pull out a book and leave it, go back down, and pull out a book and leave. The words, the books you want to take out. You know what I mean? And then I would come back with a stack of books on whatever it is, on leadership, management, certain parts of history. And guess what? With that doggone gadget there, I have no reason to go to the library. Actually, it's blowing a lot of my, used to be a lot of my, fun. And like I got books, I got books there, I got books there, I got books everywhere. Books. I actually like books, But we could think up a subject, and you could go right to that gadget and type it in, and there comes 50 articles on the subject, and articles semi-associated with it. And there's no end to it. Like you technically, a library is, those libraries with the physical books are almost outdated. I mean, when I say outdated, that outdated for, well, all of y'all know it. Lectures, I remember when it hit me, it was a few years ago. Because, I'm older, so I wouldn't use all that stuff the kids was telling me all the time. And I would ask people to record certain things, remember the Chinese stuff, and I would put, you don't have to do that. What you mean I don't have to do it? I knew what they meant, but I didn't. I'm sitting there like Americans are. They're sitting there looking at what's going on, and they ain't making no move. You know what I mean? And the kids is telling me for at least 10 years, Dad, with the phone you have, you don't have to. And then these later phones, now there's gadgets. And I kind of knew it was true. But until I started using it, then I said, shoot, this ain't no fun. Because everything I want to do, I don't have to do nothing but type it up. And then in a way, when it really hit me was when I was getting ready to give a lecture on the Mau Maus. So I just typed in the Mau Maus. And the film and the British and all the stuff, from 1950, the British film series on the Mau Maus, the whole historical thing. I said, dog. And then the Black Conscious lectures. So and so. So I typed in Black Conscious lectures. And all the other lectures associated with that. You know what I mean? I said, dog, this is cold-blooded. I said, man, this thing here, it does everything but fly a helicopter. Everything, you could do everything. I mean, that's the way I felt about it, Huh? I'm sure it can. I mean, but that's what I mean is like, when you get older, a lot of the new things, I had when I used to have them big Cadillacs and everything, and I got one for my father too. Now, all the things they did at that time, them big old 8-tracks that just came out, them big old 8-track tapes that just came out, and all that stuff, and I used all that. And my father, he didn't, in his program, he didn't even turn the radio on. Because when they was coming up, when he was maturing, they didn't even have no radios. And he only wanted to listen to the ball game or something like that. And he wasn't going to be riding and do and all that. And so every time I'd get in his car, the radio was never on. Never. It was never on. In mine, it was all, that, and I'd be the spoiler thing, pushing a button, going from one station to the other. And then after they get all the not CDs, but all that cassettes and all that stuff, you can get in a groove and you can just stay in it. And that's the way I drive to California. I get in a groove and I just be zooming. And I look up, it'll say Kansas City 200 miles, then Denver 300 miles. I'm just rolling, eyes big. Anyway, that's the way this stuff is now. And I said, wait a minute, it ain't took the fun out of it. But after all, when you get a little older, you don't, the ability to get up and jump downtown and go in the Martin Luther King Library and take all them books and then, buy all them books. Now it'd be blowing my day. Because, see, I used to go to that county out there, Montgomery County, have the libraries. There's a couple of their libraries where you go buy used books. So all the books on strategic management that would cost $80 and $100, right? They're $2 or something. They're the books that come back from other libraries and what have you, right? And they have them on sale. They used to have one out sale. Muhammad Al-Asi told me about it because that's where he used to get a lot of his books. So you could get maybe a book on management might be 3 years old or 5 years old or something like that, and on leadership. But for you, that's technically brand new, And all those, you couldn't even afford those books. I would come back with boxes of books all the time. But anyway, we're in a period now of let's call it the manifestation of defects, And I just want to mention a little bit about Boss Man and what he's going through. Uh, I would consider it a period of maximum chaos, maximum chaos and buffoonery. If the people trying to get on the airplane in Afghanistan and falling all off was a fiasco, this one is a super fiasco. You know, Ukraine is a super fiasco. And what it produces is, and anybody with a third grade education would be able to know what the U.S. under the old man's guidance, what it's doing. You know, I mean, a third grader, you couldn't miss it. And we call it a complete meltdown, total insanity. Just the whole thing falling apart, and we'll mention a few of those things, and that's why we call this forever war. And that old hag, Miss Albright, passed away, and they said don't say nothing bad about people this, when they die. And I just say, she's dead good. That's what Mom maybe said a long time ago. You know, she's dead good. You might say, that's cold-blooded to say about that nice old lady. Well, that nice old lady, when she was asked about the number they keep, I listen on the news now, and some say 500,000, some up to 1 million. But at that time they were saying, well, 750,000 people, including children, have died in Iraq because of your policy. She said, I think it's worth it. She said, I think it's worth it. 750,000 people, mostly children at that time. And when you think about those people, you think of they got these, well, the modern vampires ain't scary as the old time vampires during our time just scare you to death. Well, I mean, not really, but these people, when you look at them, they have a pleasant look, but they're so mean. You know what I mean? And you think about what would be the purpose? I'll tell you one right now. You know the Indian lady on TV? I said, that's a reasonable looking lady. How can she be that fast tongue and deadly? I said, boy, especially with Muslims. Huh? Oh, good God Almighty. That's why, but a lot of stuff is good. If it's a neutral stuff with India, they'll give you some good news. Even on the war that's coming up, a lot of the generals will come on there, retired generals. That's the rule for Pakistan and for India. The retired generals will come up and tell you just about what's going on. They do it in Pakistan. A lot of the old books we would have about Islam and all that, a lot of the old generals so and so. But I was saying, man, how can a visually nice looking person like that be just so, mean and unbelievable? I said, God, dog, lady. And then, the reason they got so many women doing media now is because people, I don't know why, but they believe, on all these surveys, they say they believe girls. Well, if you live around them, you'll know that if you're on their side, you can believe anything they say. They're going to juice it up. But if they don't like you, if girls don't like you, that's it. You don't have nothing good about you, right? And that's what that lady reminds. Look, Pakistan, China, finish. Nothing. They don't do everything. They'll find stuff that's bad about them. Even you never even thought about it. You know what I mean? And they'll be running it like, yeah, and then it looks like, they look intelligent. And so I said, man, people believe it. And then the same thing with the media here. First of all, they always talking about free media. And so first thing they do, they lie. So they cut off Russian media. They cut off Iranian media. Well, we get it still. Because if you just get the radio program, you can get the basis of the TV, the RT TV program. But I want to mention about all of that media. The experience I had with all of them, even downtown, I would go down there to that RT. Remember I used to come on RT? RT first was like any other thing. They're infiltrated. There's no way you're going to get Americans to work with you. And if you got 100 people working for Russian television, at least 50 of them are the police. I mean, minimum. I mean, that's just the way I feel, maybe more. But so I watched the way they used to do me. When the word come down, it will include Press TV, them, the whole media thing, and they will all be pushing the same people. So they're going to push, what's the name them? What's their crew? Brian Becker and his brother and all of them people, right? And you look on press and here they come. And Zafar and them showing up every now and then, although they're in their type of retirement. So you can easily see how the media is manipulated. Okay, now on they thing they supposed to be talking about, they're going to give you a good rendition. So on Press TV, I learn a lot about it. I watch it and I said, that's very good. And da-da-da-da-da. But the people presenting it and when they cut somebody out, all of them cut you out and you be running, wait a minute, hold it. We got RT over here. We got Press TV over here. And you become persona non grata on the same day with both of them. And they supposedly have nothing to do with each other. That lets you know that boss man is manipulating them both. And I remember we had a meeting here, and I was telling Brian Becker. Now, I know they went over to Iraq years ago and they did a thing on depleted uranium from the 91 war. And ex-attorney general. Now, I don't believe in ex-attorney general, just like I don't believe in ex-CIA, ex-FBI, and on WPFW and all them, they would have Phil Agee, ex-FBI agent, and ex-CIA. And I mean, just like they feel about us. Once you're a criminal, always a criminal. You ain't going to get the Holy Ghost, maybe, okay, 3 or 4% might get the Holy Ghost. But the rest of them, if they started out rotten, they're going to stay rotten. And if you start out as an FBI agent you're going to be an FBI or CIA, and you're going to feed people stuff that they already know. Yeah, they're going to feed everything they fed. I just listen to what is he going to talk about. So in the 90s and the 80s, they'd be talking about what happened in Angola in the 70s and all that. Well, we already know that and this assassination. Anyway, no, media, that's why, believe it or not, this is the time of our whole package, Muslim network. I don't know if you remember Abdul Malik Mujahid. It's the ISNA guy. The ISNA, do you remember in 1993, did you do the Bosnia demonstration with us? Yeah. Okay. If you remember, it was two groups. We was handling the direct people to, if they came in on this train, if they came, we remember that was our job. We direct people, and then we had a little bit to do with stage management. Well, we had a lot to do with stage management. But that might have been the biggest demonstration about Bosnia and that we ever had in D.C. For Muslims. That was at least 50,000 people. That was a good bunch of people. And the Muslims were a little tougher at that time, a little bit, something or other, I don't know. It slowed up a little. But anyway, that's the brother that organized it. And he cooperated with us, or we cooperated with him, and we were the main ones doing it. So he was handling one part of it, and that was good because they had Sunni, Shias, Arabs, Persians, everybody. Negroes, everybody was out there. That was a good show of humanity for white folks. Okay. So he's always been in this, in the Chicago little sound visions and all of that. Yeah, he's always been a part of that. Yeah. Or that's been a part of his crew. And all the old timers from the 70s and the 80s and 90s, and when I did all the book, maybe by 2010, I probably slowed down taking books around, maybe a little earlier. But all that was a good 30-year period where we bumped into each other all the time, all that crew. So all the old ones, I know about them. Or they know we was a part of a crew. We was trying to get the word out about Islam. And I was using books. They in the sound vision, doing them big, not the DVDs wasn't even out yet. Well, they was out, but they was them big old VHSs and all of that. Yeah. So anyway, they're on the move a little bit. I just got this in the mail the other day. And I know Miss McLeod. I don't know if you know her. Amina McLeod, yeah. I gave a lecture with her at the University of Chicago. That's Chicago. That's the whole crew. Okay. All right. But I just mentioned it because of media. And I can really understand why the Negro, I don't know if it's up here anymore, but we had the thing about the Negro, how bad he felt and, how detached he felt, and yeah. And right now, this is a bad time for the Negro. It's a good time and a bad time. The young Pakistanis and others and Arabs, there's intermarriage going on with Negroes and everything, and you have to convince a Palestinian father to let his daughter marry a Negro and stuff like that. I mean, they, and to him it's moving up, and to them, they think it's headed down, and No, but the picture that they have, see, they never remember. They make sure that nobody get the correct picture of a certain reality. Just like they do hide all the good news, what's happening about the Muslims and what have you. And when you watch about Ukraine, you'll see all the Christian white folks and everything. But guess what? Why they don't show no Muslims? It's 130 or 40 Masjid in Ukraine. And especially Crimea is almost always. Well, why they don't? Because they know they didn't already poison people's mind. So you're not even going to see, all the bombing. They could blow up every masjid in Ukraine and you'd never see it. But they just wouldn't put it on, right? And you're not going to see no hijab or no nothing. You haven't seen a single hijab and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And why would they do that? It's just like, see, they think, do you think a Muslim care about dipping? I saw one of them old movies, 1935, the British in India. And they want to torture a Muslim. You couldn't torture him and get the truth. So they said, tell him we're going to kill him and sew him up in a body of a pig and he can't go to heaven. I say, no dumb Muslims believe in that. He dead. You just destroyed him. He don't, you can sew him up in anything. He's a martyr. He don't need no ghusl, no wudu. He don't need nothing. You kill him, he die on the battlefield, and he die at your hands. But these are things that now, why would they be dipping blood? It's like we're going to have everybody get stuck with a cross, because of Dracula type stuff. Right? Who would be? There ain't nobody, if you kill somebody, why would they be dipping their stuff, the Nazis? You think a European or a Russian care if you dipped the bullets in blood? In pig's blood? He don't want to get shot with no bullet, And then the speed of that bullet, the heat of it as it travels, gonna make that bullet halal. It's gonna burn up all the pork on there. It's 3,000 something miles per hour or something. I don't know what the number of feet per second or something. That bullet is hot. All bullets are hot. When they hit you, that air them boys is hot. They heat it up, burns off all. Anyway, but they think these thoughts, and we think them thoughts with us. So they're not going to show any of their nice euros saying Allahu Akbar because it don't sell good with the other lies they're telling. Right? They're telling all these lies. So we talked about Crimea here, I don't know how long ago. Crimea, all of that part of the world was part of the Ottoman Empire, and it was part of the Jews in Khazaria and all of that. And those people are all mixed up, and they've been mixed up, and the Muslims held power for 500 years, and they got a crew hooked in that. Then the Christian kingdoms, and they got hooked in that, and the Orthodox Church. So those people are really mixed up. And in Russia, you got hundreds of tribal makeup, and probably the most makeup of most of them are Muslims. And when they say, I'll send you to Siberia, that's what they was doing to the Muslims in the 1920s. Take them out of their ancestral homelands and send them to the frozenest part of Russia. Seriously frozen. That's where we'll send you to Siberia come from. Okay, the point is media has a lot to do with how people register. So part of our command center and part of our structure, uh, we've been dealing, when we deal with lectures and all that, that's media. But this trip, this is will be a big part of it, because now they started off like this. I don't know if you remember Daoud Zwink. He was the vice president of ISNA, the guy with the glasses. So you know who he was, Daoud Zwink. He was a European. And then this other guy, uh, Steve Johnson, that was his name. Steve Johnson. Yes, Steve Johnson was big. He was the head of Dawa. And at that time, 98% of everybody except in Islam was Negroes. And they're going to put a Euro at the head of Dawa, and then they're going to put another Euro as a deputy chief. And then they're going to tell us about Islam. And we're looking at them like, and all the speakers, man, they had a thing during the 80s where they was just going out for Euros. In the mid 80s, I don't know if you remember Gary Miller, Abdul Ahad Umar was one of their speakers, you know.
I only recognize because I have old Horizon magazine.
Right.
That's what we read.
Right. Well, yeah. Okay. I remember because I was on the circuit, and we having programs. We was in the mix, and they would roll them up to us like, "This is our new leader." And then the Euro lady. Just think about ISNA programs like 15 years ago. You see the Euro lady. She's the president of ISNA. The president. I mean, I know she knows Shahada and stuff like that. You know, La ilaha illallah. You know, at least. You know, but if they wanted to raise money, they'd have the Negroes roll through, Siraj and a couple of more. They fill up. They money them back. You know, if they want to see who helped build all these big masajid, it was the Negro helped. And then if 3 years ago they feel depressed and unwanted, something like stuff like that, I don't know. You could see. And then when you watch right now, they might have, they got Texans and everybody taking their shahada. He's a Texas businessman. And then remember that old preacher that you used to call, he wasn't a preacher, he was Meeks. And then he'll tell you where he's coming from, and I could see how he says, I had one time I wanted to become a Baptist minister. I said, yeah, you still are. I can see it. You're still a Baptist minister. That's, you know, you're a good Christian, you know. And then, although their hearts have been broken, they still at it. Example, CARE down there. They would produce a program that those people would give millions of dollars. Like they would have one man, a whole crew of them would give 25,000. I don't know if you remember when we'd be doing these fundraisers with CARE out at Seven Corners and all of that. Okay, well, you was around then, but maybe we would be out there doing security. And, you know, we'd be everywhere. And we'd watch the fund. We'd be there to secure the fundraisers and everything. Some people would be donating $50,000. And a lot of them, when they say $25,000, they would just up with their hands, you know. By the way, at one of our programs in L.A., I was doing the fundraising, and it might have been at UCLA, and so I started like them. So I said, okay, we're going to start with $25,000. Who would like to donate $25,000? And the guy raised his hand. I started saying, what the hell is you, what? I mean, I was just starting that because, we would feel more comfortable at 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, stuff like that. But I said, yeah, and we're going to start at $25,000. Anybody out there? $25,000, $25,000. And I didn't want to act surprised. What? And we raised it too. That's how we was able to open our, center out there. Anyway, we raised, but with a few people there. But anyway, see, the Muslims, especially the older immigrant Muslims, they want to find a place, white folks that they could surrender to. And they do it. I was watching this white lady, she's from Texas, and her husband's from Texas. They took their shahada. And they in the prayer line, this white woman, like every now and then there's somebody that come and put people's shoulder together, like that. And she didn't just become a Muslim, and that's her job. And I see this Negro sister, boy, that white woman put her hand, and like she didn't fire on him, but she could have. You could tell she didn't like it. And also, the other thing she didn't like is these white folks, they're nice people, but they take shahada, and imagine the poor Negro, how he felt. I can imagine how the brothers feel over, and they feel unwanted. It's not funny. It's sad. It's sad. Now I think the younger Muslims that are in the universities now are more grounded. They feel like they're American citizens, and they done been through the public school system, and they those Bill of Rights things. They feel, hey, we're Americans. We got rights. Their parents don't feel like that. Their parents just as happy as they can be to be here, and and so, and then because we had to go through this long thing of at first in the 70s and 80s, it was such a beautiful thing for them to run across a Muslim, and they treated us like, Al-Fatiha? I said, sure, I know Al-Fatiha. I mean, I just be playing with them. You sure? Yeah, of course I do. Then I just give them a few bismillahs and what have you. And with a little perfection, And they start asking you questions about Islam. Of course, you know more than they do because we're studying for it. You know what I mean? And then that was a good period. And then there was a period of, we were all together, because see, they were students from overseas, like in the late 70s and the 80s. They were happy to see. Like we would go around if we went up to Portland, Oregon, and down the bottom of the church, they had the Jummah and everything. And they only had a few Masjid, but they would, we raised a lot of our money like that, to buy our Masjid in Oakland. We were so successful when we went up to Portland, Oregon, and up to Seattle. we got back to Oakland, we said, shoot, we going on across the country. And then by the time we got to Denver, Colorado, the brothers kept us there all winter, you know. And we opened a masjid before we bought our masjid. No, before we opened our masjid in Oakland, which was technically, although we bought it in 81, we had a year and a half to remodel the thing, you know. 'Cause I stayed there all winter and giving lectures, and they had a group. They'd have a group in Colorado Springs. You got to come to Colorado Springs. Then you got a group over here. You got to go there. And then you have a group back in Ogden, Utah. You know, so I got up there, and actually I said, well, since we're here, we're going to open up. And we opened up the first Masjid al-Islam under the name of Masjid al-Islam in Denver. A year before, we opened up in 82. Marzia Hashemi took Shahada and the masjid. It was over on Cherry Street. And we opened the masjid, and everybody was young, and we plastered it. We did all of that stuff. You know, it was just fun. And that happened several places. And so we learned the process of liking the Muslims and the Muslims liking us, and everything was fine. Only thing that Muslims in general didn't like about us is that we hung around too much with the Iranians. But the Saudi fitna wasn't super heavy quite yet, but it was heading there. So, no, it was a good experience. Then by the 80s, I was talking to one of the brothers in Tennessee that used to be kind of part of that crew that he said, yeah, now, we was all used to be brothers. He said, now the doctor brothers, he called the brothers, because now in the 80s, up in the end of the 80s, they done got their degree. And he said, now he called them doctor brothers. See, at first we was all brothers. He said, now they doctor brothers. And guess what? They would move as far away from us as they could get. And that's what I mean, who's going to move into a black neighborhood? I mean, upward mobility. Dr. Abdullah is going to move and raise his kids in a Negro neighborhood. You know what I mean? Of course not. And then now they're more into the system and the society, and I imagine most of their customers are not customers, but the patients are white. And so they beginning to fit in. And you could see from that stuff how they used up the Negro and then forgot about him. Okay, now the brothers were sad. You remember that article? You could tell they were sad. We've never been sad. When we worked with everybody, we could see it coming 100 miles away. So, okay, with whatever group, was the Indo-Pakistanis. In those days, the ones closest to us was the Indo-Pakistanis. Because the Arabs had a view, if you don't speak Arabic, you're not a top-of-the-line Muslims, and the Pakistanis didn't, and wala zalin. And the Arabs, you can't say da. Da. I said, and they pull their hair out. You know, that's one of the words, da. And they say, da. We say, da. Oh, my goodness. Anyway, so let's jump up to now. But now there's a group of Euros that are accepting Islam, and they're just overwhelmed about it. And so we have on our notes that they had to find some white folks and hire them to be their masters. And after they've had Shahada for 3 weeks, they actually listen to them. And they're talking about Islam. And, and one of the people couldn't understand it. I'll just call this person Mellow Yellow. Now, then they had Hamza Youssef that he was working with and helping him. In fact, we had a big meeting in Chicago where the brothers in Oakland was acting like they wanted to jump on Hamza Youssef, and so they asked Mellow Yellow, whoever you can figure he is, and this is 97, and he came by my table. We'd been good friends a long time. Hey, I want to talk to you, and Hamza, so we had a meeting at the ISLA program up there in the big office, and Hamza was saying, the Sabiqun brothers, they look at me so mean. He was acting like a scared Euro, a fraidy cat. I mean, he was really deep into that. And I was, some of the brothers was, I said, no, we don't do that. We don't worry about that. There ain't nobody, And I don't get no reciprocal like see you in trouble, like Imam Musa with Boss Man. He told Boss Man, Boss Man come to his house. Remember it was in the newspaper? Shoot. And they asked his wife, where's your husband? Says, he's with the president. And I mean, that boy took off everything and put on his Hansen uniform, what they call, what is his name, Hansen? He's Danish or something. Anyway, but this guy, Mellow Yellow, which is more advanced, even Islamically, than, and especially politically Islamically, than the Sufi guy. And he was saying, I don't understand it. It wasn't a type of jealousy, but it was like, what does this guy got? What is it? He was trying to figure, and I was just thinking, well, you working with him, you the one holding him up. But he couldn't figure. I said, look, man, you mellow, I didn't tell him that. You Mellow Yellow, you use real light, but you are not white. You got to get that in your mind. You got, look at your hair, man. That hair you got is hell is the same stuff I got. You're not white. You're Mellow Yellow. If you're white, you're all right. If you're mellow, if you're yellow, you're mellow. Brown stick around. I say, you mellow, man, but you are not white. You are not all right. And you can come and they're going to have you give these big talks and they're going to be, but you are not white. You got to get that through your mind. I mean, I never got a chance to tell him that, but sooner or later I will, Anyway, we got a big mission here. We got a big mission here because we have never been bitten by any of those diseases. None of those flies, the tsetse fly, the Muslim fly, the white folk, we've never been, we've been bitten by all of them, tons of just landing on it. They never, we was inoculated some kind of way from all of that. Never affected this masjid, never affected anything we been doing. Okay. And therefore, not only it never affected us personally, but it never affected us to where they loved the microphone and we were distanced from it. That microphone is a big seller for people. But some kind of way Allah ameliorated all the things that microphone do to you and for you. It didn't do it to us. And we're happy with that, Okay. So if you think we was destined before, it's really this river and tafweed is really big. That everything we have ever talked about is in place. Uh, I think I've been talking a long time. I might have drifted into kind of rambling, but uh, I'm gonna go on. Huh? Okay, good. All right. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, yeah. No, it's fine. Okay, good. Uh, what we call it is there's a difference in manage between doing things right and doing the right thing. Have you read that before?
Not in those same exact words.
Okay, but here's what that means. If you're going in the wrong way at 100 miles an hour, you may be doing everything right. I mean, you're just going the wrong way. So you're doing the right things. You're checking all your gauges. You're doing all this, that. You're pumping the brakes, make sure they work. You're doing things, you're doing that thing right. But is it better to do things right or do the right thing? That's the difference with us. We stick with doing the right thing. The right thing will mostly be unpopular. You won't get any immediate returns, and it may go like that for decades, or you may leave here like some of the Anbiya almost by yourself. But you do the right thing over doing things right. Now you look at the other people, they might be doing the things right. They're studying speeches and they're reaching the people and they're warming their hearts, right? But it's not the right thing to do for the time in which they live, right? And this has been our policy all along. Yeah. No, we don't. Okay, now, boss man, he don't understand it because he has a thing that everybody has their price. That's what he thinks. And they started with me a long time ago, and they would up it. So one of the final things, not the final, because they come back with something else every few months or weeks. So they knew that my goal had been to have something especially for the Negro. So they knew that I had East Oakland Enterprises in Oakland, main marijuana and cocaine. But they knew that when I went to South America, they knew why I was there. They knew that I wanted to smuggle cocaine, and I wanted to smuggle it to the Negro, and I wanted to get it in huge quantities before the Colombians got contacts up here, And when we started, this is the early 70s, like 72 and 3 and stuff like that. So they knew because I told the brothers in the party when we had a meeting. Eldridge was there, Sekou and them was there, Pete O'Neill, everybody was there. It's two of the people that was there that's still alive. Everybody else had passed away. But they out of the men, they're still, those two of them still alive. One's in Africa and one's here. And I And I told them, I said, hey, the revolution, first of all, a lot of the money I had, I turned it over to them because I saw they didn't have, the kind of money they needed to even take care of some normal stuff. The government, they were on the government dole. Okay. So about rebellion, in a revolution, you need independent wealth. Now, when I got to Algeria, I would consider myself, from watching them and their behavior, they was going down to the Rue de Douche Mourad every other day buying hashish, and they was spending time with women and stuff like that. And they was telling me, man, them ones that's all covered up, they the ones. I said, then they wonder why. When I went to Tanzania years later and I was talking to Pete O'Neill, he told me, he said, pussy got us kicked out of Algeria because the elders was telling those Arabs they didn't like us. That wasn't none of that. No. They messing with women with niqab on because they had women wearing mini skirts and all that. It didn't make no difference. They still had Arab culture, called it Islamic culture. So you may be easing up, say, da 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 da. They look at you like you was crazy. They see them on the bus, you see them everywhere. When you went to a nightclub, we sure didn't like that because there was not one woman in the nightclub. None. All them men in there drinking coffee and tea and all that. I said, man, I ain't down with this, at all. I said, man, anyway. So the idea was that, and we had a meeting with them, and I'm going to ask some people still alive to verify it before, the people are dropping off, like flies, not like flies, they dropping off though. Anyway, so I come over there because I'm fully ready for revolution. I'm for revolution the next stage. I done already tried the Sweetie Pie way. We're going to have East Oakland Enterprises, Black Enterprise Zones, and all these. We done already done that. So now I'm ready to get down. Stuff I didn't believe in before. I didn't believe you're going to shoot Boss Man, and Boss Man got 1,000 guns, and you have 2, and yours don't hardly work, them old rusty guns. You're in Boss Man oil. He said all they polish them and everything, and he practiced with them, and niggas don't practice. They done watched all them westerns, and niggas be shooting, dow, 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 dow. Holy, I said, that's why they killing y'all, man. Watching them old westerns, they pow, pow. You remember them old westerns? What could you hit like that? Pow, pow, pow. You're throwing the bullets. Pow, pow. And then everybody wondered why was the Negro getting wiped out? Because the Negro didn't do training. He just thought, which we all thought, well, one Negro can whoop 10 white folks, which you had reason to think that, because, we was all from the country, and the Euros were middle class and nice guys, except Hell's Angels and all of them. They was just like niggas, except they was white. They are tough white boys. And the white boys call themselves, especially like in Texas, they call themselves Peckerwoods. That's an honorable name. We're Peckerwoods, And that means, like we niggas, we Peckerwoods. And hey, man. Anyway, so let me speed up here. So we went over there. We wanted to start a revolution, and go get the money. I told them, well, how you going to go? We did it this way. Oh, they might as well said that's haram for us. We can't do it. I said, okay, I'll do it myself. And I went to South America, hooked the whole thing up. And I come back to Algeria with bags of money. And everybody's gone. I ain't contacted nobody all the time I was gone because you don't want to do nothing like that. I got back to Algeria and I went to the old office. That boy had cobwebs on it, and I said, and everybody knew what had happened. I didn't know till when I left Algeria. I went down to Tanzania. I sent the sister back home, and I went to Tanzania. When I got to Tanzania, that's where everybody was at. And they told me what happened. They said, hey, man, it was pussy got us put out of Algeria. Yeah, it wasn't they don't like black people and they Arabs. You know, there's a little bit of that, but that wasn't the reason. These dumb Negroes are hitting on and drawing them out of their Islam to Negroism. And since they Negroes, they knocking them girls over and they curling their hair up. The Negroes, they practicing colorism. They don't practice it on the colored girls, but on them other girls, they be throwing down. And they got all them men mad. They put, you niggas got to go. That's what got them put out of Algeria. Had nothing to do. Eldridge Cleaver, we was in jail together down in San Diego because I was in the penitentiary and I had a case in San Diego. And when he come back, he was 76, something like that. He was coming through and they run him crazy. Next thing I know, he making some pants with a penis in the front. You ever see them pants? You never saw them? This is pitiful. But he was a real pervert. I don't want to change the subject. But when I was in Tanzania, the person that took over the party was Pete O'Neill. So I was staying at the Fort Thani Hotel. The Fort Thani Hotel is a Wananchi hotel. They got New Africa and all that other right next door, those big New European hotels. But this is the palm tree from the old days, And I was staying there, and I used to like to look out the harbor of Dar es Salaam. I was telling them, yeah, man, I like to look out. So he brought me a telescope. And I said, I've seen that telescope before. He said, yeah, it was in Eldridge's house. I said, now, tell me this. I say, Eldridge lived on the side of the hill. I said, why, if you go into everybody else's place and you finish that, the telescope is pointing up always. I said, why was Eldridge's always pointing down? He said, because the nigga was a peeping Tom. He was sitting there peeping in the slobber. I said, I better wipe this boy off because there's probably slobber all over. The nigga been drooling at the mouth. No, because Eldridge was like that. He was just funny. He was real funny. No, he was funny. And he was going to marry one of the white women. And the brothers told him that wouldn't be good. And he marries Kathleen. I have nothing against Kathleen. You ever see her skin? You can see, they call them the Blue Vein Society? Right? That means you can see their veins. That's the crew. She's that light. Not just yellow. This girl, you could see her veins right now, old as she is. You can still see her veins. That's one of the super high yellow. They call them the Blue Veins. You ever heard of them? Yeah, the Blue Vein Society. Not high yellow, that's high yellow. But blue vein, that means you could see their veins. I guess that's supposed to be the best, top of the line. I said, well, if you couldn't marry no A white girl, he sure got close. He got close as he could get, because he's one of the. Anyway, I don't want to talk about Eldridge. Eldridge, the party was attracted not good people at the top. Not all the people at the top, but it attracted people who was just wanted to be up there. And so Eldridge was like that. Eldridge, he went to jail for rape years ago or something. He was in jail for rape, I mean, good God Almighty, This ain't even none of my business, but people, if a lady went to pick him up to take him to a meeting, she'd have to run around the house for a half an hour and have football training. Where girls can double up on you and they don't want to do nothing. If they, look, I'm here to do a job. I'm here to take you to the rally. Not to, let's do that later. And bump them niggas. And they can zip out from under you and you don't know how they did it. That's why they try to say that O.J. Simpson killed that white woman. And the man that I said, the man ain't nowhere in the world. Well, who did he kill first? If he killed the man, he had to be killing him. And that girl is gone. And they know how to do their body. They can collapse. They can squeeze out of the window. They gone. It ain't nothing you can do. I mean, if you ever been around them during those type of times, they Allah put it in them, and they can do it. They can get not hurt in real dangerous situations. If they slip up, then they will get. But anyway, so they'd had these big rallies, and them Negroes. I might as well say the brothers thought it was the job of the sisters to service them. That was one of the problems of the movement. That was the attitude of the movement. It wasn't. That was the attitude straight across. That was their job, and they put. I have asked those people who've been in those, and I'd asked them, well, what did y'all do? Our job was to do that, da 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 da, and they think you to forget it, something like that. Anyway,